In this part of building a Netflix clone with AI movie recommendation using the MERN stack, we are going to be focused heavily on the backend aspect, which involves setting up a server with Express, storing data in MongoDB, using JWT to store user cookies, then finally using Postman to test our APIs. If this is your first time here, this video is the second part of the series. The first part can be found in the description below. And like always, the source code used in this video can be found in the description as well. Before we start coding, please like and subscribe to make YouTube push this video for other people to watch. So without wasting time, let's jump right in. In the last part, we did most things concerning the front end, and we did this sign in UI and the sign up UI. In this part, we are going to be focused on the backend, which means that we do not need this browser that we're seeing now. So we can just close this browser. We don't need it at all. Alright, so the next thing, inside our VS Code, we are done with this front end. You can right click on this, then close all, close your front end, then Ctrl J to open your browser, Ctrl C, close your front end server, CLS, clear everything, CD ... to go back, and then now we'll go into our backend folder, CD backend, just like this, CLS. Alright, now in this backend folder we can create a new file. We're going to call this server.js. This is the file where we're going to write all our backend code. Alright, this is the file we're going to write all our backend code. And first thing I want to do is to show you a simple Express application. So the first thing we have to do right now is to install Express, because we're going to be using Express. Alright, and we have to do that using npm install Express, just like this. After installing, if you go over to package.json, or you are going to see the Express dependency here. Now we cannot do our normal way of importing, import Express from Express. We can't do this. If we do this, it won't work. That is because our package.json does not accept module importing style. What is default is common.js. If we go to our front end package.json here, you are going to see a type of module, this one. So this is what we have to copy and paste in our backend package.json for us to be able to import Express like that. Ctrl S, and this should work now. So now if you do const app is equal to Express, we are calling this Express, and now we can say app.get. Let's create a simple get request, and we can say this is going to happen on the home page, and then we pass in the request and response, just like this. So this is a simple get request, and now we have to send the response to the client. Send. So let's send hello world, just like this. Now for this to work, we have to listen. So we'll say app.listen. Now we have to listen at a particular port. So we have to come under here, and let's say port is equal to 5000. We want this to be on localhost 5000, and then we'll come here and say listen on port, which is 5000, and then pass in this function, which is going to say let's console.log server is running on http ://localhost : and then you add in the port, which will be 5000. Now Ctrl+S. For us to run this, we have to come here and say node server, node, and then the name of your file, which for us is server.js. Click on enter. Now we're saying port is not defined, so I have to come here and say const port is equal to 5000. Ctrl+S, cls, node server.js. As you can see, server is running on http://localhost:5000, just like this. Now, to show you what I was talking about concerning this import express from Express, if we go here and remove this type of module, Ctrl+S, we stop our server, and then we come here and say node server.js. You can see cannot use import statement outside a module, so that was why we had to come and put a type of module. So I just say I should re-explain that. Alright, now we can continue. Let's say node server.js. Now we can see that our server is running, but let me reduce this. But where is this our hello world? Now basically in your Chrome, you can go to your localhost 5000 and you are going to see this hello world, but we don't want to do that here. Let's imagine that we're full backend developers, because I'm teaching a full stack project. So right now I'm on the backend side, so I don't really want anything front end. Alright, now for us to test this without going to our browser, we have to use what we call Postman. Now we have to get that extension. Just come here and search post. You are going to see Postman. Install this, and then you are going to get this icon by the left side of your VS Code. Now if you don't have an account, you might be required to sign in. Just sign up and follow the process, and make sure you have your Postman ready. If you face any issue installing or anything concerning Postman, drop it in the comments and I'm going to reply you in lightning speed. No jokes. Now we have to create a new HTTP request. So let's come here, let's click on plus. This is a new collection. Let me rename this. I'm going to call this, rename. I'll call this Netflix _ clone, just like this. Now we have to add a request. So this collection is empty. Add request. So add a request. This is a get request, and then I can call this test. This is a request, so we're just going to use it to test. And the URL, remember that our server is running on http localhost 5000, so I can Ctrl C on this, and I just stopped my stuff now. Paste it here, and if we send without node, let me close this. You see, without this it won't work. Nothing is going to work. You can see could not send request. But if I come here and say and start our server.js, and you can see server is running on http localhost 5000. If I click on send, I should see hello world. Yeah, you can see this hello world gotten from server.js. Now if I say hello world 2, Ctrl+S, and come to this test and send again, I won't get hello world 2. I will soon get my hello world. That is because using node to run this, we have to close our server and then run node server.js again for us to get that hello world 2. As you can see, now how do we solve this problem? Because when coding, we cannot be closing our server, restarting our server every time. How do we solve this? We solve this by using a tool called NodeMon, and then we can Ctrl+C. We have to install NodeMon, because NodeMon, if you use NodeMon, it is better. It's going to, let me show you. So npm install NodeMon, just like this. We install this NodeMon, And now after installing, I can just CLS, and I'm going to use NodeMon now instead of Node. So NodeMon server.js. As you can see, server is running on localhost 5000, and this is hello world 2. If I come here and say subscribe and Ctrl S, if I come to this test and send, I'm going to see subscribe. If I come here and change this to subscribe to my channel, Ctrl S, if I come to this test and send the new request, you are going to see subscribe to my channel immediately without stopping the server and restarting it. It's going to help you. It's going to detect that change anytime you save, and it's going to come here and say restarting due to changes. You can see that is really nice. The next thing we're going to do now is signing a user up. We have showed you a simple get request, so we're going to sign a user up. Now, how does signing up a user work? We have to collect the user information from our client, which will be according to our code from the client. From the front end side, we have the username, the email, and the password. So we have to collect that information, do some backend stuff, save it in our database, and then from there we are going to give the user we are going to send a cookie to our client to save that particular user in cookie. So with time, if we're working on this, you are going to see, I'm going to explain everything step by step so that you understand how everything works. Now, for us to save that user in our database, we need a database, of course. Now, for this video, we're using the MERN stack, which means that we are going to be using MongoDB. Now, we have to go to our browser and get that MongoDB connection string. So let me shamefully open my Chrome back, since I was like, there's no need using Chrome. But like I said, I'm going to shamefully open it back, and then I'm going to enter mongodb.com. Now inside MongoDB, we will click on sign in. And now if you don't have an account, you can go and sign up, but I already have an account, so I just need to click on the Google logo. Now while you are here, you might see a different screen, but just find how you can create a new project. If you are in this screen, just click on this button, new project. And now let's enter our project name. We can call this Netflix clone, just like this, and then you click on next. Now add the permission or whatever. My email is already there. Just click on create project. Now we need the cluster, so you click on create, and if you have money, if you're a rich kid, you go for the paid ones. But me, I teach for free, so this is just like a test project. If you want to go deeply, you can pay. I'm just going to use this free one here, and I can leave the cluster here, yeah, and just create a deployment. Okay, now this is my username and password. So I will copy this password, come to my code here, go to my file tab, create a new file, call this .env, and then I'm going to paste it here. Back to my browser, click on create database user, and then after the user has been created, you click on choose a connection method, click on drivers, and then this is my connection string. I don't really need to save that my password, but that was just for like a safety something in case my password didn't show here. So you click on copy, and then you click on done. Yeah, so this is basically it. And then you can go back to your code, you can get rid of this, then you come here and say Mongo underscore URI is equal to what you copied, just like this. Then Ctrl S. Now we don't need our .env to show in when we are deploying this. We don't want it to show in our GitHub repository, so I prefer you do this early. Now our front end already have a git ignore file, so I can just copy this, Control copy, then come to this backend and paste it here, just like this. And yeah, so our .env is secured now. It's not going to be deployed, it's not going to be posted in GitHub or whatever. Just Ctrl S. Now we have gotten our connection string. What is the next thing? The next thing is to connect to our database. So for that, we have to come in this backend here, create a new folder, call this config, and in this config create a new file. You can call it anything you want, but I prefer calling it db.js. Now the next thing we'll do is we are going to be using Mongoose to work with MongoDB, so we need to install that. You can close your server, cls, and then npm install Mongoose, just like this. After installing, we are going to import it by saying import Mongoose from Mongoose, just like this. And then we are going to export a function, because this our connect to database function, we are going to be using it in our server.js. Alright, so we have to export it. So export async function connect to db, just like this. And then we are going to put this in a try and catch statement, a try catch block. In the try block, we are going to come here and say const con. This will be equal to await mongoose dot connect, and then we have to pass in our connection string. And what do we call that? We call this Mongo URI. So we can copy this, go back to db.js. Inside here, you are going to call this process.env .mongo URI. Why am I getting errors? Oh, sorry, this is not meant to be like this. Yeah. So await mongoose.connect process.env mongo URI, and then you can just come here and put a console.log and MongoDB connected, and then you can pass in the connection string. So you come here, put a comma, and then you come here and say con.connection.host, the connection host rather, Ctrl S. And then if there's any error, that is if we catch any error, you can just come here and say console.log, log the error to the console, error connecting to MongoDB, and then you pass in the error message, which is going to be error.message, just like this. And then after console login, we don't want any other thing to happen after an error occurred. So we're going to come here and say process.exit 1, just like this. And with this, you are done with your connect to DB function. And now you can go to your server.js, and then we'll have to call this function while we are listening. That means here, when we connect to our server, we are going to call the connect to DB. So we're going to come before the console.log and then you add the connect to DB, just like this. Yeah, control S and CLS here, node.mon server.js. We need to see our connection host. If we don't see our connection host, then that means our connect to DB function is not working the way it should work. Now we got an error. Of course, we are not going to, there's nothing like DB here. This is not Vite, this is not React, so we have to come here and put the .js. Ctrl S and that error should be gone. We are going to get another error for sure. Now, why are we getting this error? As you can see, the URI parameter must be a string, but it's got undefined. Now, Node.js cannot read env files directly like this. We need to install a new package called .env. Even this our port, we don't want to add our port like this. We are going to take this our port to our .env file. Port equals to 500, and then inside server.js you can come here and say our port will be process.env.port or 5000, just like this. This is just a I'm just digressing or something like that. Alright, so back to what I was saying. Node.js cannot detect env files just like that. It's going to leave this as undefined. You get? So for us to overcome this, we have to install a package known as .env. So you can close this, Ctrl C, CLS, npm install .env, enter. And after installing, you can come here and say import .env from .env, import .env from .env, just like this. And then you are going to come here and say .env.config, just like this. Ctrl S, and now we can start our server back, and that error should be gone. Node.mon server.js. As you can see, server is running on this, and then MongoDB connected, and we have our connection host. Wow, this is nice. We have connected to our database successfully. The next thing now is that before we create our sign up API, we have to have a user model. So we want MongoDB to know what we are expecting from the user. Like I said before, in our front end we expect what? The username, the email, and the password. So we need MongoDB to know that that is what we are expecting from our front end. So how do we do that? We do that by creating models in MongoDB. So you can come here in our backend folder, create a new folder called this models. Let's add the S, because in a real life application you are not going to be having just one model. You are going to have different models. So this is why I added the S, models. Now inside this model, you are going to create a new file. You are going to call this one user.model.js. Now some developers call theirs just user.js, but I prefer calling my own user.model.js just to indicate that it's a model, something like that. Yeah. Alright, the next thing is to import Mongoose. Of course, we are using Mongoose to work with MongoDB. Import Mongoose from Mongoose, and then we have to create our user schema. How do we do that? We do that by saying const user schema. User schema will be equal to mongoose.schema, and then you come inside here and you pass in the fields you are expecting from your client or from your front end. So for that, we are expecting three things, which is not the first one, username. This username is going to be a type of what? It's going to be a type of string. And is it required? Of course, required. This will be true. And you can put a comma. You can Ctrl C and paste this 3 times. Come here. The user, this is not going to be username. This is going to be what? Email. Is also a type of string and required true. The last one is going to be password. This password is going to be a type of string and required true. Yeah, so that's it. Now after creating this user schema, we have to add this to our existing model, or we create a new model. So for that, we'll come here and say const user. This is our model now. This is the schema. This user schema is our model schema, but this user is our model. All right, this const user will be equal to what? It's going to be mongoose dot models dot user or mongoose dot model user, comma, then the user schema. Now, why do we do this? I see a lot of devs doing this, but they don't know why they are doing this. Why can't you just leave this as mongoose.models.user? Why do you have to put this or mongoose.model and then you add this user and the user schema? Why? Now let me explain this. This code here, mongoose.models.user, checks if the model named user, which is this one, if it exists. If it exists, then it doesn't do anything to avoid redefinition. Now if it doesn't exist, that is when this other one happens. It creates a new model by using this mongoose.model, then you pass in the user and then the user schema. So that is just the simple explanation. Now when you are done with your model definition, you can come here and export this, because we are going to be using this in our server.js. Export default, and then you pass in the user, just like this. And like this, you are done with the user schema, and you can go back to your server.js. And then we're going to start creating our sign up API. Now you can see this our test API here, where I said subscribe to my channel. This is a get request, because we do not need anything from, we are not getting anything from the client, you get. But now we are going to be using, we are not accepting anything from the client, but for this sign up we are getting something from the client. So which means we are going to be using a post request, because after getting, we are going to be sending that response, you get. All right, so now we're going to say app.post, and then inside this, what is the URL of our sign up? We can call this anything we want, but to be more professional, we are going to be using /API and then sign up, just like this. This is going to be our URL, and then you pass in a sync function of request and response, just like this. Now we are expecting how many things from the front end? I've said this like 1,000 times. We're expecting 3 things from the front end, which is the username, the email, and password. So you have to get that from the body. So to do that, we are going to destructure it. Const username, email, and password. This will be what? This will be equal to the request.body. We are requesting this from the client. Now that we have gotten this username, email, and password, we are going to use this to do something. So before that, let me console.log it. Console.log it, or let's console.log the username, email, and password. So how do we get this? We are going to get this by taking this to Postman. Now we have a test clone here, a test stuff here, so we'll duplicate this. We're going to rename this to sign up. Rename sign up, just like this. This is not a get request. If you come here, you can see app.post. So we'll come here and call this a post request. Now we need the URL. The URL here is /API/signup, but don't forget that we have the HTTP localhost 5000 and then /API/signup, which is this URL we added here. Okay, now if we send this normally, we're not going to get anything. As you can see, we got a cannot destructure property username as it is undefined. That's because we didn't add anything. Now to add, we'll come to this body and then you go to raw. Now we pass in, we'll put a curly braces here, and then we need three things. First one is username. Let me make this bigger. First one is the username. So I can come here and say the username is going to be what? Let's say John. So this is like a testing of what, this is like a demo of what we're going to expect from the client. That is why we're using Postman to test. The next one is what? Email. Now the next, we're going to come here and say the value for the email is what? john@gmail.com. The final one is the password. And then we're going to call this one 1 2 3 4 5 6, just like this. And now if we send this request, we're going to see a console.log of the request. Let's see. We didn't get anything. That is because we didn't return anything to our server. So for that, I'm going to just come here and say return I'm coming. Let's see, wait. Why is it saying the body is undefined? Let's return something first. Return res dot, give it a status of 200, which means success. 200 is a success code, and then .json, and then you can pass in let's say the user will be let's call this done. So Ctrl S and let's see, send again, and they're saying I cannot send request. Okay, that is because Express is not getting any JSON code. So if you go here, all these things, this request.body, Express is not understanding it. So for us to make Express understand it, we are going to be needing what we call middlewares. So under this, you can come here and add your middlewares. So for Express to understand our JSON from the body, we have to use app.use, and you add express.json, just like this. Ctrl S, and now let's go back here and send this request. Let's send again. Okay, so let's Let's solve this problem together. We are sending a JSON format of data here, and then we have made Express to be able to read JSON file here. So let's check our headers if we are actually okay. Yeah, so this is a problem. We have to tell Postman that we are dealing with a JSON type of file. So for that, we're going to come here and say content. In headers, you go to headers, and then you come here and say content dash type. So come here and say content type will be equal to application. The value is application slash JSON, just like this. And then you save this code so that our future request or testing, we will have that as well. Now if I click on send, it should work. Let me get, as you can see, user, it's returned user of and done. Now in our server we have john@gmail.com and then the password, which means that our API is working. Now let's continue building our API. So now that we have been able to get we can get rid of this. Now that we have been able to get the username, the email and password from our body, the next thing we have to do is to put this in a try and catch first. The try and catch block, let's get this return statement inside this try block, and then inside this try and catch we are going to make some few checks. So first thing, we need to make sure that the user entered the three information. So to do that, we are going to say if no username or no email or no password, any of them, we are going to come here and say what? Throw a new error, throw new error, and then you come here and pass in the information. All fields are required, just like this. Ctrl S. Now if the user enters all the information, we still need to do some checks. We need to check if the email already exists, because we are signing a new user up. We don't want the email, we don't want to sign up the same user again. So instead we'll check if the email exists. If it exists, they will tell the user that you already exist, you should probably go and log in or something. And then we're going to check if the username exists, because we don't, for this our application, we don't want a user to have two different username, because we're using the username for signing up. So we don't want, for signing in, that is logging in, we're using the username for signing in. So we don't want different users with the same username to avoid conflict. Alright, so we're going to do those checks now. So first one is the email check. So const email exists. How do we know that the user email exists? So we're going to come here and say const await, and then user from our model. Make sure you import that. Let's check if it has the JS. Yeah, models user.model.js. Yeah. So we're going to say await.user.find one. So find one user with this email gotten from our database. So find one user with the email gotten from the body, not from the database, from the body. So what this will do is that it will scan through our MongoDB database to check for that email, and if it exists, it's going to be true, and it's going to be false. So if it is true, so if there's already a user with the email, so if email exists, then we don't want the user to be able to sign up. So we're going to return a response of 400, return res.status of 400, status of 4. No, this is not meant to be a square bracket, it's meant to be a curly bracket. Yeah, res.status of 400. Yeah, dot JSON. I'm going to give this a message, and then you can come here and say user already exists. If you want to add other information, that's fine. It's your app, so do anything you want to do with it. Now the next thing is the email. We're going to copy this, paste it here, and then we're going to come here and say if username exists, then await.user.find one. We're not going to be finding by the email. Instead, we're going to be finding by what? The username. Alright, the next thing, we're going to copy this if statement again, come under here and paste it. Now, not if email exists, but if username exists. And we're going to come here and say username is taken. Username is taken, comma, try another name. Just like this. Ctrl S. Now the next thing, why are we using a 400? This 400 is a bad request, and then it occurs when the server could not understand the request due to maybe invalid syntax or whatever. This is just a bad request code. Alright, the next thing. Now we do not want to store the user password just like that. This is a professional site, so we don't want any hacker to get into our database and then you see the plain password and the username just like that. No, we are going to hash the password. And how can we hash the password? We are going to be using a tool called bcryptjs. So we have to install that. Close your server here, Ctrl C, CLS, and then npm install bcryptjs, just like this. After installing, you can start your server again. Node.mon server.js. Now the next thing, since we have installed bcrypt, we are going to import it. Import bcryptjs from bcryptjs, just like this. And then under this, we are going to hash the password. How can we hash the password? We are going to come here and say const hashed password. This will be equal to await bcryptjs dot hash. And then what are we going to pass inside? We are going to pass in our plain password, which is sent from the user. In our case, for me, I added here, let me show you, 1 2 3 4 5 6. That was my password. So I'm going to pass in the password here, password, and then I'm going to pass in the salt. What is the salt? The salt is just like rounds, and it controls how many times bcrypt applies the hashing algorithm. So basically, more rounds is equal to a stronger hash, but then it will become slower. So 10 or 8 is a good default. It is secure and fast again for most apps, so that should be okay. Now that we have checked if the email exists, the username exists, and we have gotten a hashed password, the next thing, it only makes sense to save the user to our database. Now to save the user to our database, you can say const user doc, that is a user document, the saved one, will be equal to await and then user from MongoDB user.create, just as simple as this, and then you pass in what you want. Remember, we are expecting 3 things from the user, which is the username, the email, and the password. But remember, we are not storing the password from the user, we are storing the hashed password. So we are going to come here and say the password will be equal to the hashed password, just like this. Just like this. All right. Now, so what does this do? A more explanation. So this creates a user document in our MongoDB database, and then he stores the hashed password, not the password, and then it is going to take all the information of that particular user and store it inside this user document. We are going to be using this user document for JWT stuff. Now we are going to be working with JWT in this next side here. JWT, which stands for JSON Web Tokens, so we have to install that. We are going to use this to, after the user signs up, we are going to store the information in our cookies. So for that, we are going to come here and say npm install JSON Web Token, just like that, and we'll wait for it to get installed. After it has been installed, the next thing, we can start our server back, node-mon server.js, and then let's reduce this for more space. And now we have to import JSON Web Tokens. So we are going to come at the top here and say import JWT from JSON Web Token, just like that, and then back to our code here, this side for JWT. We are going to say if the user document exists. So we don't want to store any cookie if the user document does not exist, so we have to create the user first before storing the user cookie. Okay, so if the user document exists, we are going to come here and say const token will be equal to what? JWT dot sign. Now this JWT dot sign, it collects three things. JWT dot sign takes in three parameters, which is the payload, the secret, and then the options. So for us, our payload is going to be our ID. So we want this to be saved in our JWT signature. So we're going to put our user ID, our user document ID, which is userdoc.id underscore ID. We are going to put it inside this ID, which means that when we are verifying our JWT token, we have access to this user document ID. That's our payload. And then for the secret, the JWT secret, we have to run that by ourselves. So we'll go to our file tab here. In our env file, under this port, you can come here and say JWT underscore secret. This is going to be anything of your choice. Just put anything that you know that nobody can crack. Just put some mixtures of letters and numbers. Ctrl S, and then you go back to your server.js, and then you come here and say what? process.env.jwt underscore secret, just like this. And then the final parameter, which is optional, is the options. Now for the options, we are going to give this an expires in parameter, expires in, and then this cookie should expire in 7 days, just like this. Ctrl S. Now what is the next thing we are going to do? The next thing, under this token, we are going to send the cookie to our client. So we are going to do that by saying res.cookie, and then we are going to name the cookie what? We are going to name the cookie token. You can call this anything you want, is your choice. And then you pass in the read token, which we've gotten from JWT, this token. You are going to pass it here. And the next thing, we are going to add some options. So we want this to be on a HTTP only cookie. HTTP, this will be true. And then secure, it should be secure only when the process.env.node underscore env. We don't have that in our env because Node has its own env by itself. Only when it is equal to production, that is when it should be secured. and then we are going to add a same site of strict, same site of strict. I think this is used to prevent XSS attacks or something. I've not really checked it that much, and then this should be okay. Ctrl S, and now right now we are returning user and just done. If you go to your Postman, you are going to see it responded with user and done, but we don't want this. We want this to respond with our user document. So we're going to come here and say, instead of the user to be just done, we're going to say the user is going to be what? The user document. And also after this, we can pass in a message. This message is going to be what? User created successfully. Just like this. And now if there's any error, you catch the error and then you what? Respond with a status of 400 bad request, and then .json, 400.json, and then you pass in the message. You get the message. The message will be what? Error dot message. Just like this. Ctrl S, and now we have to test this. Now first thing we have to check is, let's see if we'll get anything when we do not enter our username, email and password. So back to our sign up stuff here. Let's reduce this. Let me remove this John and then let's send the request. It's still saying done. Let me save this and go to sign up here. Let me clear the response and then click on send. You are going to get all fields are required. That is because we didn't add any information. Now let's add information. John at gmail.com, and then for the password you can write 123456, and let's send this. We are still getting bad requests, and as you can see, secret or private key must have a value. Where is this coming from? Let's check our MongoDB first. Browse collections. Let's enter the user, and if you see, our information is stored successfully and our password is hashed as well. Now where is this issue coming from? Since our information stored, it means that the problem is not coming from anything concerning this user.create or anything concerning MongoDB. And if you look at the connection message, it says secret or private key must have a value. This issue is from JWT. So so this is it. Instead of secret, I wrote secret. So Ctrl S, go back here, clear this response, and then let's name this let's call this Peter, and then this will be peter@gmail.com, and let's send the request again. As you can see, this worked perfectly. We've gotten our user information with the hashed password, the user ID, and then this message, user created successfully. And if you look at this here, this has increased to 1. Click on cookies and you are going to see this token. This means that we can use this to check if a user is logged in or not. So this is nice. The next we are going to work on is logging in. We have been able to create a user and store the user in our database here. The next we are going to work on is logging in. Logging in is quite straightforward. So what do we expect in logging in? We are expecting two things from the client: the username and the password. Then what are we going to do? We have to check if that username exists in our database. If it does not exist, then which means it is an invalid credential and we don't want that user, we are going to return the user back. We are going to give it a status of 400. Now if the user exists, let's say it passes the first check, we are going to perform another check, which is we are going to check if the password is valid. Remember that our password is hashed, which means that we cannot just do a normal simple equality operator to make sure that the text is equal to the text in our database. No, that won't work. We have to use bcrypt to compare sync. Then after that, we are going to check the JWT stuff and give the user a new token. You get? So let's just work it out, and by the time we are coding this, you are going to understand this better. Back in server.js, we are going to go under the let's close this. Under this one, we are going to create a new request, a new API, app.post, and then we are going to call this one /API/login, just like this, passing the async function, request and response, just like this. Now, just like we did for the sign up, we are going to get the username and the password. So const username password, this will be gotten from what? Yeah, you got it right. Request dot body, just like this. Now the next thing, of course, try and catch block, and now we're going to find the user document in our database based on the username. So for that, we're going to say const user document will be equal to await user, which is from our MongoDB, dot find one, and then you pass in what? The username, just like this. Now under this, we are going to perform an if statement if no user document. So if it is false, if we do not get any user with that username, we are going to return res, give it a status of 400, and then we are going to say .json. We are going to give it a message of invalid credentials, just like this. Now if the user exists, which means that this check will be passed, under this we are going to check if the password the user entered is valid. Now how are we going to do that? We are going to come here and say const is password valid. We are going to come here and we are going to use bcrypt to compare the two passwords, the one the user entered and the one in our user database. So for that, we are going to say await bcryptjs dot compare sync, and then you pass in the password which the user entered from the body, from the client, and then you have to compare it with the user document dot password, the one which is in our database, just like this. Ctrl S, and then we are going to perform the if statement just like we did for the user document, for the username stuff. So if no password, so if it is not valid, if the password is not valid, we are going to come here and return the same thing, invalid credential. So we can just copy this and paste it here, just like this. Now after we're done with this check, we are going to come under here and perform JWT functions, just like we did with the user with the sign up API. We are going to just come here and copy this, it will be better. So JWT, come here, let's copy everything down to here. We can close this back, and then for this JWT we paste it. So if user document, then the token will be jwt.sign the ID process the secrets, and then the options. Then you pass in the request, you send the cookie to our client, and then the user will be user doc, and the message will be logged in, logged in successfully, just like this. And if there's any error, we can just come here also and copy the error message, Ctrl C, and then we'll come here, paste it here, and also we can add an additional console.log and say error logging in, and then you pass in the error dot message, just like this. So now let's test this out using Postman. We'll go to our Postman here. Remember, we're expecting two things, username and password. So let's duplicate this sign up, duplicate, and then we can rename this, let's delete this one, rename this one. We're going to call this one log in, just like this. It's going to be a post request. And now let's check the /API/login. Copy this URL. Instead of /API/sign up, you come here and put /API/login. And then for the body, we don't need the email, we just need the username and the password. Now let's say we are John, but we didn't enter John where we wrote John 1 2 3, and then we click on send. We are getting cannot post. Okay, our API this is wrong, so let's run this again. As you can see, invalid credentials. That's because this John does not exist. Let's say we put in John and then we put in the wrong password by adding 7, and you click on send. As you can see, invalid credentials. Now let's put the correct information, John, and the password 1 2 3 4 5 6, and you click on send. Is John not a user? Let's click on send. Let's clear the response and click on send. It's getting 200 okay, but it's not returning anything. What could be the problem? Let's see. Send. Okay, so there was nothing wrong. If I click on send, nothing shows, but if I change the tab and go back to the body, it's going to show. So I think it's a problem of Postman. But as you can see, we have the ID, the username, and the email. We've gotten the exact information. Alright, so this is nice. So we can log in successfully, and if you check the cookie, you can see that the token is still there. Now the next thing we're going to work on is getting a user, because how do you, like, after logging in, when you refresh a page, the information of the user leaves the state. So how do we preserve that in a state? So we need a fetch user API, which is going to fetch our user anytime the front end runs the use effects code, so that it will get the user information immediately the browser or the window reloads. You get? So that is the API we're going to work on next. So we'll go to server.js. Let's close this login, close this sign up, and then under both of them we're going to create this one is going to be a get request, because we're not getting any information from the client. We are just responding the information. I don't know if you get. So app.get, and then this is going to be /API /fetch dash user. So this is a get request because we are not posting anything. We don't get the username or password from the browser or anything. We don't interact like that. We just need the information. Finish. So async and then request response, and then we need to get the token from the cookies, because that is the only way we can know if a user is logged in or not. It is by that token in the cookies. So to get that, we are going to extract it from request.cookies. So with the structure token from request.cookies, just like this. Next, we are going to come here and say if no token, which means that the user is not logged in. We are going to come here and say return response.status of 401, and then you come here and say .json, give this a message of no token provided, just like this. Ctrl S, and then you can have a try and catch block. You can have a try and catch block under the if statement. Try catch, and inside the try block we have to decode the token we've gotten, because a user can want to hack their way inside here and then add this token inside the token field in the client. It's possible. So we don't want any tokens to count as a token, so we want to decode to be sure that that token is from JWT by using that our secret. So we can come here and say const decoded will be equal to JWT.verify, and then what are we going to pass? We're going to pass in the token which you have gotten from the client, and then you pass in your secret to be sure that yes, that token is based on that your secret. So process.env.jwt underscore secret, yeah, just like this. And if we come here and say if no decoded, if it is not verified, and then that means the token is invalid. So we can just we can just return response of, give it a status of 401 as well, and .json give it a message of invalid token, just like this. Now the next thing we are going to do, we are going to get the user information based on this JWT. Remember that we stored the user ID in JWT. Let me show you. In login here, when we signed our JWT, we said the ID of JWT should be equal to what? The user document.id, which means that we have the ID stored as a payload in our JWT, and now we're going to use that ID to get the user information. So we're going to say const user document will be equal to await user dot find by ID, and then we're going to pass in the decoded, which is the JWT stuff, dot ID, just like that. Now we need all the information of the user without the user password. We don't want the user password to be showing on the client, because we're going to be using this stuff on the client, so we don't want the user password to show on the client. So to remove the password from the information, we're going to say dot select, and then select all minus password. This is just a way to do this in Mongoose, very easy. So you find all the field except the password. So next, if no user, let's say the token exists in the client cookie, and then we decoded and it's true, but there's no user. So what are we going to do? So not username, rather, if no user doc, we are going to return res.status, status of 400, bad request, and .json. We are going to give this a message of no user found, just like this. Then if all these checks are complete, we are going to come here and say return, or we don't need to put the return, we can just come here and say res.status, status of 200, which is a successful code, and .json. You pass in the user should be user document, just like this. Now if there's any error, we can just come here and say console.log error in fetching user, just like this, and then you can come here and pass in the error.message. And for other purpose, we can just return response.status, status of 400, and .json, passing the message of error.message, just like this. Ctrl S, and we need to create, let's duplicate this, duplicate, and we can rename this to fetch user, just like this. And now this fetch user is not going to be a post request, so this is going to be a get request. And then what is the URL? /API /fetch-user. So we're going to come here and change that. And then we don't need anything from the body, so we can clear everything from the body. What we just need is the cookie. So let's check if we have any cookie inside. Let's check. So we have one cookie, which is that token. So let's fetch the user now based on that cookie. So let's send, and we have gotten an error. So I don't know why I've gotten error. Okay, yeah. So cannot destructure the property of token from request.cookies as it is undefined. That is because Node.js can also not read cookies without us installing the cookie parser package. So that is one thing about this channel. We are going to show you, we are not going to just install packages and you don't know what they are for, you are just copying code. No, we are going to show you everything step by step while we are installing each packages. So yeah, like and subscribe. Let's continue. Ctrl C, CLS, and then I can install the cookie parser package, and npm install cookie -parser, just like this. After installing this, we can come here and start our server again. node-mon server.js, just like this. And then we'll go back to our server.js code here. At the top, we have to import cookie parser, import cookie parser from cookie parser, and then for this middleware, we are going to add in the cookie parser middleware. So app.use, and then you come here and say cookie parser, just like this. Ctrl S, and back to our fetch user API. Let's reduce this one. Now we can clear the response and click on send. As you can see, we have gotten the user, the ID, the username. The user which had this token is John, Alright, so we can clear the token. If we clear this token now and we clear this response and you click on send, you can see no token provided. For us to get this token back, we have to go and log in. So let me log in. Go to body, and now let me don't log in as John. Let me see if I logged in as Peter, and then I click on send. Now this is Peter logged in successfully, and if I go to my cookies, you will see this token here. This token is for only Peter. Now if I fetch user, I will get Peter. As you can see, this is Peter. So yeah, as you can see, this is really nice. You don't really need Chrome to test your API. You can work on your API, you can work on your server code and test your API at the same time in just your VS Code. So right now, as you can see, 90% of backend, we have written it inside this VS Code, and I just like teaching full stack development this way: front end separate, back end separate, and then we connect everything together. That is like 3 parts. So yeah, that is my pattern of teaching. If you like it, please comment below so that I will know that yes, I teach people who enjoy this pattern of teaching. If you want me to working on it together, let me know as well, and I will change my teaching pattern. Everything, I will do it for you guys. Yeah, thank you. Subscribe again. Thank you. Okay, the next one I'm going to do now is logging out. I think that's the final thing. We have to, since we are able to sign in, we have been able to fetch a user. The next thing is to log out. Logging out is the most easy one, is the easiest one, and we can do that by just clearing the cookie. So this, it's going to be a post request. I just come here and say app.post, and then API/API/logout, just like this, and then you pass in the async request response, just like this, and then the only thing you need to do is just to clear the cookie. So just say rest.clear cookie, and then what are you going to pass? You pass in the name of the cookie. The name of our cookie is what? Token. So just like this, you have logged out. Yeah, it's pretty it. And then you can just return a response.status of, let's say, 200, which is success, and a JSON of message. I don't know, I keep spelling message wrongly. Message of logged out successfully. Just like this, Ctrl S, and now it's going to be why is this a post request? Ctrl S, it should change to get request. Yeah. Now let's duplicate this login. We can just duplicate anyone, really. Just duplicate this one. And you can rename this, rename to logout, just like this, and then we'll go to server.js here, copy this link /API/logout, Ctrl C, go to logout, and then you paste it here. And now if you click on send, you should see logout successfully. Okay, cannot get API. Remember that this is a post request, so I have to come here and change this to a post request, and then click on send. As you can see, logged out successfully. If we go to our cookies tab, you will see no cookies received from the server. Go here and you can see 0 cookies. Now if we want to fetch user, we won't have any user to fetch because no token provided. So with this, you are done with the backend. Wow, this is nice. Like, we have been able to sign up, log in, fetch a user back from the database, log out, test everything using Postman. This is a big milestone achieved if you don't know. This is nice, like nice. You're a backend dev like this. All right. So the next part, we are going to be focused on linking our front end with this our backend code to make sure that everything works simultaneously. Yeah, so we're going to be dealing with some errors like cause error and yeah, something like that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next part. Thank you.